What if I told you a war started over a pastry? Welcome to the weirdest pages in human history. Back in the 18th century, Britain and Spain weren't exactly besties. In the Caribbean seas, they fought over ships, sugar, spice, and, apparently, ears. In 1731, a British merchant ship called Rebecca was stopped by Spanish coast guards. The Spanish commander, Julio León Fandiño, boarded the ship, shouted a few angry Spanish words, and accused the Brits of smuggling. What happened next? He walked up to the British captain, Robert Jenkins, and sliced off his ear. Yes, cut it clean off. But wait, it gets better. He placed the ear in a jar of rum, handed it back to Jenkins, and said, "Take this to your king, and tell him stay out of our waters." Jenkins went home to Britain earless, angry, and holding a jar of ear and booze. And guess what? Nobody cared. Not for 7 years. Then, in 1738, the British Parliament was looking for an excuse to start a war with Spain, colonial tension and all that. And boom, in walks Jenkins, dramatically holding up the jar, yelling, "Here is my ear. Spain must pay." Parliament went wild. Newspapers called him the heroic earless merchant. And, in 1739, Britain officially declared war on Spain. What did they call it? The War of Jenkins' Ear. Yep, a 9-year war. Dozens of ships sunk. Thousands of lives lost. All because of one slightly pickled ear in a jar. Let's travel back to ancient Rome around the 1st century AD and meet one of history's most famously unhinged emperors. Caligula, a man who ruled for just 4 years, but made every year count in chaos. Now, Caligula had a best friend. Not a general, not a noble. Nope, a horse. His name? Incitatus. This was no ordinary horse. He had his own marble stall, an ivory manger, silk blankets, and he sipped fine wine from crystal goblets. Classy, right? But wait, it gets weirder. One fine morning, Caligula declared, "Incitatus shall be consul of Rome." Yes, he wanted to appoint a horse to one of the highest political offices in the Roman Empire. The Senate? Stunned. The people? Confused. Incitatus? Just chewing hay like a true philosopher. Some historians say this was Caligula's twisted way of mocking the government, like saying, "Even a horse could do a better job than these fools." Others think he genuinely believed the horse deserved it. Either way, Incitatus never officially held office, but the story stuck. To this day, Caligula's horse remains the most famous, almost politician in history. Proof that power corrupts, and sometimes neighs. Would you believe that a pastry shop getting wrecked started an actual war between two nations? In 1832, a French pastry chef named Monsieur Remontel was living in Mexico City. One day, some rowdy Mexican soldiers trashed his bakery, smashed the shelves, ruined the pastries, stomped the eclairs. His poor cream puffs were massacred. Naturally, Remontel was furious. He asked the Mexican government for 600 pesos in damages. That's not much, maybe the price of a royal wedding cake. But Mexico shrugged it off. No apology, no cash, no cake. So Remontel did what any rational man would do. He wrote to the King of France, demanding justice, and maybe a few new ovens. King Louis Philippe, already itching to flex in Latin America, saw the perfect excuse. In 1838, France sent warships and troops to blockade the Mexican port of Veracruz. Yes, they started a war over a pastry shop. Mexico resisted. Battles broke out. A Mexican general even lost a leg in the fight. Eventually, Mexico gave in and paid compensation for a bakery that had been smashed 6 years earlier. The whole incident became known as the pastry war. And the moral of the story? Never mess with a French baker, especially if he's got friends in the Navy. In the early 1900s, there was an American photographer named George R. Lawrence. Unlike other photographers, George didn't do normal. No ladders. No towers. No hills. George said, "Let's use kites." Yes, giant ones. He built a system of 9 massive kites tied together with steel cables to lift a 25-kilogram camera, basically a flying fridge with a lens. His goal? To capture an aerial photo of San Francisco after the 1906 earthquake. Problem is, officials didn't want photographers near the area too dangerous, too chaotic. But George was like, rules? Meh. So he went rogue. He flew his kite system out in an empty field, attached the camera, triggered it remotely, and boom! He captured one of the most iconic photos of that century. But then, the wind turned. The kites went nuts. The camera plummeted straight into a barn, landed in a cow pen, and scared the cow so bad it ran through a fence. George yelled, "Save the camera! The cow will recover!" Luckily, the film was intact. The photo was crystal clear. It sold everywhere. And George became a legend, the first man to take an aerial war-style photo using nothing but kites and guts. Ever heard of a country where it's a legal right to be lazy on Tuesdays? Sounds like a joke, but it's real. In 1997, in Vilnius, the capital of Lithuania, a quirky little neighborhood called Užupis, full of artists, poets, musicians, and beautifully eccentric folks decided, why don't we just start our own country? So they did. The Republic of Užupis was born. They declared independence. They wrote a constitution, picked a flag, sang a national anthem, held parliament meetings in a bar, and appointed a self-declared president. Their constitution is the stuff of legend. Here are some actual clauses. Everyone has the right to be lazy. A dog has the right to be a dog. Everyone has the right to die, but it's not mandatory. Everyone has the right to wash in the national bathtub. And yes, they do have a national bathtub, a public bathroom turned into a sort of sacred site. Their Independence Day? April, the 1st of April Fool's Day, of course. To enter Užupis, just cross a small bridge where you'll be greeted by a trumpet-blowing angel statue. And once you're in, feel free to relax, be weird, and maybe pet a philosophical cat. Today, Užupis is a legit tourist attraction and one of the most light-hearted micronations in the world. It proves that with enough creativity, passion, and humor, you really can start your own country. Back in 2001, the internet was recovering from a digital apocalypse. The Code Red virus had swept through Windows systems like a caffeinated gremlin, crashing servers, slowing networks, and driving IT guys to live on pizza and sheer panic. Eventually, Code Red was eradicated. And while most people sighed in relief, a group of IT students at the University of Utah had a better idea. Throw a funeral for the virus. Yes, a full-on ceremony for a piece of malicious code. They put the virus file, harmless by now, on a USB stick, placed it in a clear plastic coffin, wrapped it in black cloth, added fake flowers, and labeled it. Rip Code Red, 2001, 2001, gone but not forgotten. The event included sad music from a Bluetooth speaker, a tech priest in a black hoodie delivering a eulogy. Dear virus, you made our lives miserable, but today we forgive you. The highlight? A student stood up and read a eulogy in binary. Oh, 1,010,011. Oh, 1,100,001. Oh, 1,111,001. Another guy whispered, "It means goodbye, old enemy." Finally, the USB was buried under a tree on campus. A little wooden sign marked the grave. "Here lies Code Red. May no backup revive it." And that's how a deadly virus got the most ridiculous and legendary send-off in tech history. Back in the 1960s, when NASA was pushing the limits of space exploration, they ran a lot of tests. One of the most intense was the vacuum chamber test, a giant sealed room simulating outer space by removing all air pressure. One technician, let's call him Jim, was scheduled to enter the chamber for a routine pressure test. Everyone was busy adjusting controls, taking notes, but no one noticed one tiny detail. Jim forgot to wear his spacesuit. Yes, he walked into the vacuum chamber in his underwear. The door sealed. Pressure dropped. 15 seconds in, Jim passed out. His saliva started boiling, literally because, in a vacuum, liquids in the body boil at body temperature. Fortunately, a sharp-eyed engineer spotted something was wrong and restored pressure immediately. Jim woke up, dazed, and said the most iconic line, "I felt my tongue starting to boil." From that day forward, NASA added a new line to their test checklist. Is the subject wearing a spacesuit? Jim became a legend in NASA lore, forever known as Spaceboy in Underpants.